Alright guys, so now I want to talk about property binding, which allows us to basically have dynamic attributes in our template and in our component. So I'm going to create a button here right below the users H2 and above the users, and I'm going to give it some bootstrap classes. So BTN, let's see, we'll do BTN light, BTN block, and let's do MB3 to give it some margin bottom. Okay, and in here I'm just going to say add new user and save. Alright, so we just have a simple button here, nothing special. Now what I want to do is go into the TS, into the component, the users component, and add a property here, and we'll say enable add. And let's set that to be a Boolean, and let's set it to the value of true. And then we want to go back to our template, and we're going to add some property binding here, and we do this with brackets and then the attribute we want, which is disabled. So we want to set that to not enable add. Alright, so we'll only be able to enable if that value is set to true, and it is set to true. So you can see I can hover over it and click. It's not going to actually add anything. We haven't added that functionality, but it is enabled. Now if I were to change this to false and save, now you can see I can't even hover over it or click it or anything. It's a disabled button. Okay, so we can manipulate the attributes through our component properties, and we can of course create a function or our method to change this value, and we can create events and stuff. We haven't gotten into that yet, but we will. So it just makes our template much more dynamic. So what I want to do now is I want to use property binding for an image URL for our users. So we're going to actually add a property. So let's go into our interface, our models user TS file, and we're going to add an optional value of an image. So we want to say image question mark, and that's going to be a string. It's just going to be a path. And then we'll go back to our users inside our users component TS file, and I'm going to go down to the bottom of each user here after the address and add in an image. So for the image, I'm going to say http lorempixel.com, which is just a website that generates images for us, and we're going to say /600, so the height / the width, so 600, and then we can put a category, so I'm going to say people /3. Alright, and then let's go ahead and copy that, and then for this second one we'll put a comma here, we'll paste that in, and we'll say people /2, and then this one here, paste that in, we'll say people /1. Alright, now if I save that, it's not going to show anything over here because we haven't added the image into the template. So let's do that. Let's go to the HTML, and then inside the LI, what I want to do is create a bootstrap grid and have the image on this side, and then the rest of the data on this side. Now when the screen is really small, it's going to be responsive, so the image will be up top. But let's go ahead and add a grid. So we're going to go right in the LI and put a row class, and then we're going to have two columns. One is going to be, we'll say column, actually let's do SM for small screens, so call SM4. That's where the image will go. That's where we'll bind the image, and then we'll do call SM8 for the rest of the data. So let's grab the H3 and the UL, and let's go ahead and just bring that into the 8-column div. And then in the 4-column div, we're going to bind our image. So let's put an image tag. Now instead of just source, we want brackets. Okay, that signifies that we want it to bind to this. And then inside here, we're going to put user.image. So let's go ahead and save that. And wow, he's a handsome fella. But you can see now we have an image with each one. All right, now you can see the image is coming outside of the card. What we can do is add a class, a Bootstrap class called image or img-fluid, and that should keep it inside the box. All right, and we'll make this a little bigger, and now it floats to the left. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now David Jackson doesn't have an image, so we should probably put an ngIf because since it's optional. So we'll go ahead and just say ng if user dot image. All right. Actually, you know what? Let's get rid of David Jackson. I just wanted to do that just to show you that we could. So I'm just going to comment that out. All right. Now there's actually other ways to bind properties. So this is the main one using the brackets. Where's the image? Right here. So this is the main way, the brackets and the source. But another way we could do this, let's see, we'll just copy this and comment it out. And then we can do source without the brackets. And then we can equal it to the user image, but just include the curly braces. So 2 curly braces on each side like that. And then let's save. And that works as well. Okay, and then we have a third way of doing it, which is by using bind. Okay, using bind dash and then the property you want. So instead of bracket source, we'll say bind dash src equals and then user dot image. So we'll save that, and that works as well. All right, so there's 3 ways to do property binding, but this is the way that's usually used and that's recommended. So I'll leave these in here for you guys. And we could even use property binding for like this stuff here where we'd use string interpolation. I mean, you probably wouldn't do this, but just to show you that we can, we could put like a span, and we could bind text content and set that equal to user dot first name and save, and you can see we get the same thing. And just to show you this is actually working, I'll change it to last name, and then we should just see the last name twice. Okay, so you could do it that way, but string interpolation is much better. But again, string interpolation is only for strings. Okay, that's property binding. We're using booleans to show and hide things and so on. All right, so I think that's going to be it for now for property binding. In the next video, I want to start to talk about class binding and ng class.